Because everything comes with a sacrifice, right? And so the truth is, you may not want it. You might be looking at that man and like, oh, I really, really want him. Girl, you don't want him. You don't want what comes with him. Hello. So it is June. We are officially halfway through the year. And you know what? Word on the YouTube streets is that the girlies are doing a mid-year check-in. Yes, that's what the word on the YouTube streets is that the girlies are doing a mid-year check-in. And if things are not on track, if things are not in alignment, then the girlies are doing a reset. So I figure we might as well go ahead and check in too. Let's check in. Let's see if it's time for a reset. Why not? That's the beauty of life, is that as long as we are alive, as long as we're here, we have an opportunity to reset, to relook at our goals, and to figure out what's working and what's not working, and use the new information that we've gathered to make new decisions, right? That's the beauty about life. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing with you some of my reflections as I check in with myself over the first half of the year. I had to dig out my January journal and my goals and kind of see if I'm still on track, because I'm one of those goal-oriented people who I do check in with myself pretty regularly. I try to check in with myself at least once a month, and I kind of like to keep an eye on what I'm doing. But more importantly, I kind of like to check in with myself, and I do write it down, because I really like to look back over what I've been doing over the years, because it just gives me a sense of certainty that I have been making progress, that I have been making plans, that I have been walking in my purpose, that I've been actually doing something useful and purposeful and meaningful to me, based on my feelings, based on where I was at. And more importantly, I like to see my growth. I like to see how maybe my mindsets, my ideas, my visions, my dreams, and my plans have changed or grown or developed or evolved, right? I like to see how, maybe in the past, I really wasn't able to even dream very big. And when I look at, more recent journals, I'm able to see that even my dreams are getting bigger, that I'm able to think outside and look outside of the box, right? I'm able to see where and how just my thinking has evolved, and how I'm getting into more alignment with who I am as a person. And I'm able to see that I'm actually becoming the woman that I desire to be. And for me, that's a beautiful process. But more importantly, it's beautiful because I see through my journals and through my notes that the previous versions of myself, that woman is the woman who's made me the person that I am today. And so I don't look upon her with regret or with sadness or with shame or with guilt, because I recognize that she was doing the best that she could with the information that she had at that time. And when I see my journals and when I see my notes, it shows me evidence of her effort, right? Of her intention, of her strategy, of her logic, of her emotional state. And I feel grateful. I just feel grateful, because while she was not perfect, what I see is that she was walking the best that she could to get to where she was going. And that's, for me, it's beautiful. I don't know. What do you think? It's just beautiful to see, to look back upon yourself, and to see how you've grown. So I don't know. What about y'all? What do you think? Do you look back upon your old notes and your old journals and kind of just imagine and think of how you've changed and how you've grown, and maybe some thoughts or some ideas or that you had in the past that now you think of so differently, or how you were so certain, right? You were so sure that you were right in your way of thinking regarding something. It was so clear, right? Especially when we're young. It's so black and white. Everything is so right and wrong, right? It's so easy when you're younger to see right and wrong and black and white. And as you grow and as you become more mature, and over time you begin to realize that it's not always that black and white, right? There's some gray areas in life, right? And there's some things that happen in life, and we're going to encounter certain circumstances and situations, and we've never really thought that we had the opportunity to prepare for. And yet we're there, and we have to make decisions, and we do the best that we can, right? We do the best that we can. And as they say, hindsight is always 20/20, right? So we're always going to look back and be like, you know what? If I was in that situation, now I would do this differently. And yes, that's true. But that's the beauty of the journey of life, is that we are who we are. And personally, I believe that, and I'm actually convinced now, that life is basically a series of awakenings, right? You just don't know what you don't know, right? You just don't have the ability to make decisions that you just don't have the ability to make. And once you go through an awakening, or once you go through a different level of maturity, or growth, right? Or revelation, or enlightenment, or inspiration, or wisdom, right? Once you get to a different level, that's when you're able to see things differently. And so your opinions hopefully shift, right? So I just think it's beautiful. But with that being said, let me just introduce myself. My name's Dr. Nicola Shawn. I am a nurse practitioner, and here on this channel, I talk about things related to health, wellness, nutrition, and travel. And I am helping Black women to create the life that we want to live, rather than the one that has been assigned to us. I believe that health is truly our wealth. And I believe that travel is a form of therapy. So I love to help Black women in particular to set up their lives in a way that is sustainable, that helps them to flourish in the area of their health and their wellness, and just create the life that you desire, and to know that you do have the power to create the life that you desire. And so I am a former overworked nurse, and I have walked this journey of life, and I've had an opportunity to create a life that now is more sustainable for me. And I love to help women do the same, because I want to see women flourish. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please go ahead and give this video a like. Please subscribe. Share this video with someone that you know who may benefit. And come on, join the party. We're here. But we're talking about our 2024 goals. We're talking about our reflections. Where have we been? Where are we going? What are we doing? Are we still on the right track? So let's get into some of my reflections for this year. And why don't you share down below some of your reflections that you're having as you kind of recap the year. I actually have this one journal that I like to use that kind of helps me get a broader picture of either the previous month or the previous year. So I'll share with you some of the questions that I tend to look at on a regular basis, usually about once a month, but also maybe every 6 months, whatever the case is. But it helps me to kind of focus on some of the things that were important, some of the things that were inspiring, or some of the things that I enjoyed. Because interestingly, the thing about life is sometimes we can forget about some of the experiences that we had that we enjoyed. So how are you doing with your yearly goals? That's the first question. How are you doing with your yearly goals at this point throughout the year? Are you making some progress? Are you needing to reset like the girlies? Are we having to start all over from scratch? That's a good question. I know for me, one of my goals is always hydration, because I'm always needing to do better. This bottle, it's what time is it right now? It's 3:49 in the afternoon. My bottle of water is still full. I'm supposed to be on a second bottle. So let me rehydrate. Because one of my goals is hydration. The first question was, how are you doing on your yearly goals? How are you doing on your seasonal goals? I love to set seasonal goals for winter, spring, summer, or fall, because every season in my life is just a little bit different with regard to my calendar, my schedule, my priorities. So when you look back on the spring, right, on this past spring, where are you at with your seasonal goals? What are some of your favorite memories from this past 6 months? What are the highlights? What are the things that, you're grateful for? What are the things that happened that you didn't really expect to happen that are now inspiring? And you can jot those down, right? And you can take a look at them for them to inspire you for the possibilities of your future. I will share some of those memories with you, but that reminds me of a quote. And this says, stop telling the story of your past and start telling the story of your future. Stop romancing your past and start romancing your future. So when you think about your past, what does your mind go to? Are you thinking about the beautiful experiences that you had, the beautiful doors that have opened that were unexpected, the people that came into your life and blessed you, the unexpected things that showed up that provided you with opportunity and vision, and life can be what we make it, right? So make the best out of the life that you were given. So what are some of your favorite memories? Go ahead and let me know down below. But I have a couple brief I will share with you. A couple of my favorite memories so far from the first 6 months of the year are, one, going to South Africa. I went to Cape Town in February and met up with the ladies from Exodus Summit. It was beautiful. And the reason why I say that's one of my favorite memories is because I had written that down on my vision board for last year, the beginning of last year, because at that point I really didn't know how I was going to be able to do that. And honestly, I didn't really think it was possible. But I decided to go ahead and write it down, and I made a decision to go ahead. And even though I didn't really believe it was possible for me to make a trip, because it was going to be expensive, going to Africa is expensive, right? It's not a cheap vacation to go to South Africa because it's so far. But I decided to go ahead and write it down, set a goal, and put it in writing what my budget was, and allow my brain to think about ways or opportunities for me to figure out how to make that happen. And it happened. Not without work, not without sacrifice, but that just shows me that yes, there are things that we can only dream and imagine, and then we can make them happen, right? The second one is that I took a trip for my birthday this year to Italy. Yeah, that was something that, again, I didn't think was going to be possible. And yet I went ahead and wrote it down, because the writing down the South African one worked. I said, why not? Why not write down this plan to go to Italy, or this hope or this dream to go to Italy? And why not see if I can just take one step in that direction? And if one step I take, and then one next step, and then one next step, and then then I got to take this trip. And it was a solo birthday trip for me that I gifted to myself. Something that I had actually been dreaming, literally dreaming of, really, really wanted to do it. I've never been to Italy, and I just felt like this was a year for it to happen for me. I just really felt it in my heart that now was the time to go ahead and do it. And yes, so those are a couple of my favorite memories. And what's the next one that I have? What would you like to do next for the second half of this year? And I'm gonna say, dream, don't limit yourself. But a couple of reflections, I guess it's more than a couple. Some of the reflections, some of the things that I have learned And I feel like I've kind of tuned into over this course of this last year as I've been able to reflect on some of my notes, some of my journaling, and just seeing the differences in my mindset, my thinking, my progress, right? I want to share with you some of the reflections that I was able to make, and you can share with me some of your reflections, because like I said, I love seeing growth in others, but also in myself, right? So in this last year, I would say that I have learned to listen to my body and my own personal intuition, rather than looking to others to guide me on what's best for me. And yes, I would say that this is a practice. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you probably know how important it is for me that I believe that we as women in particular should listen to our bodies. There are lots of opportunities for us to improve our health, work on our well-being, and do things that are in our best interest. But the first thing that we should do, and I think always comes first, is to ensure that we're listening to our body. Our individual bodies have very specific and unique needs and designs, and sometimes we're the only one who knows what our body needs. So I think it's important that we train our ear to hear what our body is saying. Yes, your body is speaking to you. Yes, your body is trying to communicate with you. So allowing yourself to hear what your body is saying by training yourself to respond, training yourself to listen, training yourself to give it what it requires is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself as it relates to your health and your well-being. So that's one thing that I've learned. And I would say, yeah, I'm continuing to learn. I don't know that I will ever perfect it, but I'm definitely in a better place now than I was before. And I look forward to, getting even better, being more in alignment with my body over time and with age. And I think one of the myths of our society, right, is that we get worse with age. I would argue that we get better with age, because we know ourselves better. We know what works for us and what doesn't work for us. We know our dislikes and our likes. We know how to communicate better our needs, not only with ourselves, but with others. And that only makes life better, right? That only makes life better. If you find yourself being able to communicate the things that you need, being able to express yourself, articulate what your feelings are, and get your needs met. I think that's a beautiful gift of age and of wisdom. And, I think a lot of us can think back on times when, we have experienced things and truly we just did not have the vocabulary to articulate what we were experiencing or what we were going through. And that can be very limiting and that can be very frustrating. And so, yeah, one of the gifts of time, right, is that we get the ability to get to know ourselves better and we get the ability to express ourselves better. So I think that's a beautiful thing. The next thing that I have on my list is that I learned to take a break. I learned that it was not going to be given to me, so I learned that I had to take a break. And if you've watched my last video, you know that currently I am on a sabbatical from work. I am on week 2 of my sabbatical. I saved up and I decided to take some time off from work on a sabbatical. And I am so grateful. It's been a long journey to get here, and I'm just watching and excited to use this opportunity to explore more about who I am, to rest, right, to take this break, and to share some of the things that I am learning on this process and on this journey. But if you would like to know more about how I took my sabbatical, how I saved for it, how I'm strategically working through this, just go ahead and leave a comment below, because no, I don't have any, I'm a single person. I don't have a supporter or anybody else who's paying my bills. I'm taking care of it myself, and so therefore definitely it requires some planning, right? Some planning, some sacrifices, and putting some things in order is definitely not something that you can do haphazardly. So the next thing that I would say that I've learned is I've learned to stop telling myself no, and to stop disqualifying myself prematurely for the things that I desire. So what does this look like? I think I had a note on this. What this looks like for me is one of the tangible ways that I see this operating in my life is that I might see something or see someone, let's say online, right, doing something, going somewhere, and I'm like, wow, that looks great. If only I could do it, but I know I can't. So as soon as that if only comes into my mind, if only I could, then I tell myself, but I can't. And to be honest, I don't even know why I'm telling myself I can't. It's probably something deep from childhood, who knows, right? We have all kind of reasons stuff come up. But what I'm learning is I'm learning to catch myself in that moment when I tell myself, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't. And I stop that thought, and I'm saying, oh, you know what? It is possible. I could do that. And I force myself to maybe think about one thing that I could do in my life to help move myself towards doing that thing. And before you know it, things start to become more in reach for you. You start to realize that you do have opportunities to choose, right? You have options, that you don't immediately have to be disqualified, that you can actually move yourself into the direction of having that thing that you desire, if that's what you want, right? Doesn't mean that it's going to be without sacrifice and without, certain consequences, or doesn't mean that it's not going to require work, but it does mean that you don't have to disqualify yourself, that you are capable, that you have the ability, right? That there's really not, people are just people, right? There's no one that exotic or that special that they have something so unique, right, that you couldn't have it. Right? So don't disqualify yourself. At least this is what I'm learning. I'm learning to not disqualify myself from the things that I desire, but rather to force kind of reset my brain and say, you know what, I could have that. And then asking, do I really want it? Right? Am I just wanting it because I've been trained to want it? Do I really, really, really want that? Because the truth is I may not. I really may not want it. And you really may not want it, right? It's all fun on the camera. It's all fun when they're taking pics and doing poses. But in real life, you don't want that. You trust me, you do not want that. Okay, the next one that I have is that I am relearning to dream big and then to dream bigger. So, I would say that I learned to kind of start dreaming when I read this book last year, and it's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money, Infinite Wealth and Abundance in the Here and Now, and it's by David Cameron Gikandi. Sorry, I'm probably saying the name wrong. So I read this book last year, and yeah, it really helped me to realize that I don't really desire to be wealthy. And it's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money, but it's really not as much about money as you would think. Let's see. So it talks about, and I'm going to read the back here. It talks about true wealth is not about designer clothes. It's not about a new Mercedes. It's not about living in a palatial estate. True wealth is about discovering the value within yourself and the value within other people. It's about a kind of conscious living that incorporates gratitude, a belief in abundance, and the experience of joy. So yes, this really helped me to kind of realize that I don't really desire wealth, and that my happiness is not on the other side of wealth, that I have certain things that I desire, and that I can start to incorporate those things into my life now, right? That I don't want to wait until some goalpost to have the things that I desire. And of course, what I desire most is health, right? Contentment, good relationships, good community, right? Good food, right? I really got into alignment with what and got clarity with regard to what it is that I desire. And that this book helped me to really do that. And honestly, when I was reading this, I really had to bite small pieces. It's a really good read. It's an easy read, relatively easy read, but it is very, very, it'll shift your thinking regarding some things. And so yeah, I had to read it in small bits because it was really starting to upset the foundation of my whole psyche. So I had to read a little bit at a time. But yeah, I do recommend that. That was a good book. The next one that I would say that I'm learning is I'm learning how to get clear on what I control and what I do not control. And so, yeah, what that looks like for me in my real life is that I'll sit down if I need to and write down what I control and what I do not control. And the things that are not within my control, I don't put a whole lot of time or energy into those things. Also, like in terms of things we can't control, we don't control our past, right? We can't change the past. What we can, however, do is prepare for, plan for, and and get ourselves in a position to have a good future, right? And have a good now. And so I don't put a whole lot of effort. I try not to put a whole lot of attention into things I can't change or thinking on things in the past that I can't change, right? I've grown. We all have. We all do better when we know better, right? And so we move on from that. The next thing that I'm learning is that I am not a victim, but rather I have the option to choose a life that I desire, to create the life that I want, and not allow myself to become a victim of my past. I don't have to relive things in my past that I don't like. And if I'm to be completely honest, I recognize that there is better good in my life than there is bad. And I have chosen for myself to not focus on the things that I don't like or the traumatic things in my past, because in the big scheme of things, those don't make up the gross majority of my life. And so therefore, I don't want to give the greatest amount of my energy to those things. The more we think about a thing, the more it will grow, right? And so for me, have found that it's more important for me to focus on the things, number one, that I control, and number two, the things that are good, right? The things that are positive, the things that inspire me, right? Because the truth is, we do have an option here. We can focus on the thing that makes us feel negative or angry or sad, and those are all valid feelings, and those are all worthwhile feelings to have. Not saying that they should be avoided, but if you spend the majority of your time focusing on those things are going to stick out to you more, right? It's just like when you buy a new car, right? It seems wonderful and beautiful and fancy and unique when you go pick it up from the car dealership. But you know, when you drive it home and all of a sudden you notice every single car that looks like your car, that's the same one. And you're like, did everybody go buy this car today? I thought this car was so beautiful and unique. And then pretty soon that's all you see when you drive down the street is every car that looks like your car. And you realize that it's not that unique. And so let me just be honest with you. Your trauma is not that unique, right? People deal with trauma. It's normal. And I would argue that trauma actually makes us better. Not saying that it should have happened, not saying that you should have gone through difficult things. But what I'm saying is sometimes we go through things and it brings out good in us. It brings out better in us. It helps to inspire us to get to a different place. And so there's a way that we can shift and shape and think on things that doesn't have to make us feel bad or sad or terrible, unless that's what you want, right? If that's what you want, do you. But as for me, I have discovered that I prefer to feel better. It gives me more energy. It gives me more hope. It gives me more vision for my future, and it gives me a better sense of joy. And that's important to me. In my reflection, the next thing is I learned that worrying is not a testament of my love or sacrifice or loyalty to the people who are around me, right? I don't owe worrying about somebody to anybody. Worrying is not a productive kind of work, if that makes sense. So again, when I say that I'm getting clear on what I control and what I do not control, worrying is one of those things that we actually do have some control over. And sometimes we don't realize it, but we worry because we think it's something that we need to do to show that we care. It's a choice. It's a choice. So I can choose to worry or I can choose to not worry. And what if you think about it in that way? What if you decide that you can choose to worry or you can choose to not worry? And you think about whether the worrying itself is completing any work, right? So let's say for me, my mother has chronic illness, and I used to worry a lot over her well-being. But what I discovered is that me worrying didn't change the outcome. It really had no effect except for negative effects on me. Worrying made me more tired, made me more stressed, made me more irritable, made me more difficult to get along with. It drained me of my creative ability. I didn't look good when I was worrying. It disrupted my sleep. So yeah, worrying had a lot of negative effects. What it didn't do, however, was resolve the problem, right? It didn't bring no healing. It didn't bring no healing to the situation. So sometimes when I'm getting clear on that, I'll write down, especially if I'm getting into this loop of worrying, I'll write down actually some things that I can do that are productive to remind myself that worrying is not productive, if that makes sense. Prayer might be one of them. Calling the person might be one of them. Bringing them something might be one of them. But what doesn't help is to worry, right? The other thing that I would say, and this is the last thing, I know it's getting long, this video is getting a little bit long, is that I have learned in this last year, since the beginning of the year, that feeling emotional is not bad. It's not negative. Feeling emotional is not going to harm or damage me, right? Like having to cry over something or feeling sad over something is not negative or bad in and of itself. So I'm learning to just feel the feelings, allow the emotions. I'm learning that I don't have to fight them, right? And furthermore, that I don't have to relive them over and over again, right? Something significant and something emotional can happen to you, and there is no requirement that you have to keep living that over and over again to make it valuable. It can be just as valuable and just as significant if you decide that you're going to live through it once. You don't have to relive through it 10 or 15 or 20 times or 8 times a year to make sure you remind yourself how important it is. It's still important. It's still valuable. It's still meaningful, right? But you don't have to relive that. And so that's one thing that I would say that I've learned, that I don't have to keep reliving something in order for it to carry significant weight. I can decide how much weight it's going to carry because it's my decision, right? It's my memory. It's my experience, but I don't have to kind of relive that to make it carry the weight that I want it to have in my life experience, if that makes sense. So those are some of the things that I have learned in this last year. I hope that you found some of them to be helpful, to be enlightening, to be inspirational, possibly. I dare say inspirational. But more importantly, I am excited for what the year is bringing, and I am looking forward to a beautiful future, and I hope that you are too. I think that, regardless of what anybody is saying on the internet, I am hopeful for the future, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, and I am planning, and I am making my goals, and I'm setting myself up, and I hope that you are doing the same. Positive vibes. I'm sending you positive vibes and hugs. So that is all that I have for you today, and until next time, see you soon. Bye.